Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Silver the Hedgehog here, and I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos, as you probably expect at this point in time. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Super Monkey Ball, but not a Mania, for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, PC Steam, and finally the Nintendo Switch. So, last time, we've essentially did manage able to complete Expert Mode in Journey forms of Super Monkey Ball 2 Challenge Mode, and that's all that I can really think about it. So today, for this video, is about the fact that we're going to be tackling through, without doubt, the hardest difficulty in terms of Super Monkey Ball 2 Challenge Mode. That's, of course, Master Mode, because as you can see, that unlike in any other difficulties I've somehow completed, not just by the forms of the entire Let's Play so far, but also during the forms of my own time, this is the only difficulty I sort of did not get any other missions completed. But that's just because, well, relatively speaking though, there is one in particular stage that really irritates me. But then again though, we'll save that particular topic once we're able to get this thing started. So either way, let's dive right into Master Mode in Super Monkey Ball 2 Challenge Mode, and unlike in Super Monkey Ball 1 Challenge Mode, that we now need to tackle through 20 stages. So as a result, meaning for those of you who ever experienced Super Monkey Ball 2 before, basically you do need to come across into yourselves 10 master stages, specifically the regular ones, and 10 extra stages. So meaning about the fact that you can't afford able to utilize the helper functionality, because otherwise if you use that by complete accident, then you're not going to get progressed any further. And to make matters even better than that, is about the fact that, well, relatively speaking though, one of your missions will not be completable when it comes to able to actually complete one of those missions. So either way though, and I supposedly suffice to say, is about the fact that this will be the true definition of the final time we're going to be seeing Tails in action, because after this though, we can probably able to actually decide able to classify for saying this, is that we'll get to the exciting part during at some point until next weekend. Because let me tell you something right from the start though, is that it's been a very long while since we've last played Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania, and it's a good thing that we finally coming back into this after the events of a couple of days or a couple of weeks or so, mainly because of the forms of, well, not only for Super Mario RPG, but it's also with the forms of Sonic Frontiers as well. Although relatively speaking though, it's about the fact that, for what I've noticed, is about the fact that Sonic, he's almost finishing up with the forms of Sonic Frontiers, well, at least for certainty, for like, progression as far as I'm usually concerned with. But even then though, it will be pretty exciting to know about the fact that Sonic is almost done with the forms of Sonic Frontiers before the actual, like, you know what I'm saying, the next DLC thing is about to be on its way. So either way though, so yeah, a few things I want to explain for this point today. That's what appears to be about the fact that today's day is, of course, the 17th of September today, in some cases in 2023 today. One thing I found is a little bit fascinating when it comes to the forms of one of those Nintendo Switch games, as far as I'm aware. Basically though, it's about the fact that there's a game called, you know, Princess Peach Showtime, that Sonic did usually mentions that during the course of Sonic Frontiers Let's Play so far. As it turns out, what I've noticed on the actual eShop menu, when it comes to the forms of how much gigabyte storage does it have if you try to purchase the game digitally, I found it's a little bit surprising about the fact that that game, Princess Peach Showtime, is going to be considered trying to able to make herself into 8.0 gigabytes, which I found was a little bit fascinating, concerning about the fact that unlike Mario vs. Donkey Kong Remake, it does manage able to incorporate 2.0 gigabytes, to be more specifically 2 gigabytes. So yeah, kind of weird honestly. I'm not exactly sure of how much gigabytes does Luigi's Mansion 2 HD or Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door Remake were able to contain itself. But I suppose we'll have to wait and find out during at some point until next year. So, but even then though, chances are though is about the fact that still, we're incredibly happy about the forms of Paper Mario fans, or even to be more specifically, that we very appreciate that we finally got ourselves a re-release or to be more specifically, a remake of Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. So even then though, and I think fundamentally speaking though, that was the only Paper Mario game to able to install the release as a remake. So, because we've already stumbled across into ourselves Paper Mario re-releases for about 3 times. Like, for instance, that we've already got Paper Mario for the Nintendo 64, which is on the Nintendo Wii Virtual Console release back in the day, and also with the Wii U Virtual Console re-release as well. And now we've actually got ourselves the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack version of the game, despite the fact that back then, that we had to deal with the forms of a lot of bugs and glitches here and there, specifically with the actual save crashing. So because of that though, and speaking of Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, what I've noticed right from the start though is that unlike the original GameCube version that I've looked on the article the other day, that what I found out is about the fact that unlike the GameCube version, where the actual frames per second comes into play, that in the GameCube version of Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, managed to run like 60 FPS, whilst unlike the forms of how it does it on the Switch version coming up, sadly to tell you is that the frame rate is cut in half, specifically 30 FPS. So just like the forms of how it does it in not only Paper Mario Sticker Star, but also same applies with Color Splash and even the Origami King. So because of that though, I suppose suffice to say, the only 2 games that it does manage to run consistently with, you know, 60 FPS option, or to be more specifically, 60 frames per second, which there are not only the original GameCube version of Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, but also Super Paper Mario, because these are the only 2 games that runs consistently within, you know, 60 FPS. So, as a result, maybe, and during at some point, that's why I found out that, obviously, similar to the forms of how it does it on Super Mario RPG Remake on the Switch, that every time whenever you do manage to see those buttons shown up, specifically with both, likely also for A, B, and Y specifically, they have the exactly same color scheme as the Super Nintendo controller, or specifically the Super Famicom controller buttons. So, pretty interesting all things considered. Maybe if it's a possibility that many people keep on mentioning about the forms of that could be something related to the Nintendo Switch 2 or something like that. Although then again, no, it's a bit too early to say this right from the start though, because you know what I'm saying about the fact that I know for a fact that it's been a very long while since I've last played this, like I said before, with Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania. So as a result, I apologize if my commentary is a little bit kind of awkward, and also on top of all that stuff though, we just wanted able to get this game finished before we move on to the next batch of games that we can able to decide to tackle through during the course of in October, which as a result, then again, now we're probably not going to spoil things too much, but that's just because about the fact that we just want to keep it as a little bit of a surprise. So, although, originally though, it was about the fact that we were considered trying to able to do our DVD collection, but we still haven't got around to it just yet, mainly because, well, as far as I'm aware, is about the fact that it seems that Sonic desperately wants to able to get the entire completion list for the sake of the forms of trying to complete everything for Sonic Frontiers at this point in time, mainly concerning about the particular point that not only he's trying to able to go for a 400% completion during the course of it, not only on the PlayStation 4 version, but also on the Nintendo Switch version on his own time, and maybe eventually on the Xbox One version, assuming of course about the fact that we will come across into a little bit of a chilly, cold, like, weather conditions, or if the weather conditions gets pretty dull, obviously about the fact that we can able to dive right back onto the Xbox One version specifically, so, but you know, you get the idea about that particular points worth noting for, so, but even then, no. Oh, and another thing too is about the fact that, well, it seems that we've almost there to the anniversary tour for the Mario Kart Tour game, and as a result about the fact that, well, as what Sonic has already mentioned about this, I think so anyway, that basically though, that with the anniversary tour will be considered this to be the final tour that contains new content and all that stuff, so I don't think there's a possibility that we're probably not going to see not only from the likes of the forms of DK Jungle from Mario Kart 7, but also with Music Park or Melody Motorway, for those of you who ever played the UK version of the game, and also with the forms of any other tracks in general, like Nintendo 64 Rainbow Road, and TikTok Clock for Mario Kart DS, and especially noticeable with the forms of other tracks, which I think it's probably best if we let Sonic were able to mention more details onto that particular topic worth noting for, but that's just because about the fact that, well, relatively speaking, it's about the fact that if Sonic managed able to tackle through, you know what I'm saying, with the remaining parts of certain completionists in mind, that obviously he will definitely mention a lot of things during that time, so, but even then though. Now, as far as tackling through the special mode, as far as I'm concerned, basically though, is about the fact that what I'm gonna do is that, until next week or so, basically though, I'm actually gonna be able to choose not 1, but 5 different playable characters with each mode respectively, which, you wanna know why? Well, that's just because there's actually technically yet another unlockable you can get, assuming of course, if you do manage to complete one of those special modes, which, then again, no, we're probably not going to mention about this right now, unfortunately, but that's just because about the fact that still, no matter what though, it's just, I just want to get this game, get it overdone, so even then, no, that's as far as I can usually think about it, so. And I can't even believe by saying this is about the fact that we've almost nearly at the end of September already. I know it's a bit too early to say this, but regardless of everything else though, I'm just quite shocked about the fact that how these days fly by, and on top of all that stuff though, that's just mainly because every time whenever we play something relates to like, you know, an RPG game like Super Mario RPG, for example, that basically does about the fact that we always attempt to make the time go, well, fast and stuff like that, depending on the forms of certain play times you might go through, so even then though, that's saying something, so. And I think suffice to say, it's about the fact that we've pretty much done every single regular master stages, like as a result, some of them are actually ridiculously hard, like specifically with stage 7 in mind, and on top of all that stuff though, it's just all about the forms of trying to navigate for this spherical level obstacles here and there. And on top of all that stuff, though, there is one particular level that I cannot stress enough how much this is the reason why about the fact that one of those missions I haven't exactly completed on my own time. Not just by the forms of in the Switch version, but it's also on the PS4 and Xbox One versions as well. Which, you want to know why of what that maybe seems to be the case? And you want to know why that it has been a very long time since we've actually last played this game for sure? Well, because of that one stage in particular, that it just feels, not only it's kind of frustrating, but it's also incredibly luck-based, which as a result, well, you see why as soon as we're able to actually get into that specific points worth noting for, so, but even then no. So yeah, we're now going to be moving on to the majority of the Master Extra stages, so as a result, that, as I said before, we need to go through 10 more of those things. So relatively speaking, that might be totally seems to be the case, and these stages are going to be the most toughest stages out of them all though, which as to be expected because we're nearly at the end of the entire challenge mode all by itself, but relatively speaking though, that's as far as I can usually think about this for sake of time, so. And yeah, if you're probably wondering, I accidentally managed to touch the red goal by complete accident, but that's just because I was originally trying to go ahead and aim for the actual blue goal, but because of the forms of that particular striker stage, about the fact, you know, with that particular weird object right there, that I did somehow got flinked up, turns out about the fact that it just leads me to the opposite direction, which if I go back onto that particular springy part, it just takes me into the red goal instantly, which as a result, I was originally trying to aim for the blue goal, but I wasn't concerned about this. Although, luckily though, since that we accidentally skipped 2 levels, however, I did at the very least manage to come across into those 2 missing stages during the course of my own time, which as a result, yeah, I will definitely show those off once we finish up the entire master mode as a result. So even then though, yeah, that particular level as we go through after touching the red goal from the likes of that striker stage, that pretty much leads us to sliced cheese as the actual stage itself. So yeah, that stage is pretty tricky. Well, not so bad on the first bit, but the second one is actually really tricky because you have to time yourselves correctly, you're not able to fit through for that particular hole. So even then, that's all I can really think about that particular stage in mind. So, and as you can see, we actually completed that particular stage right here, which as a result that it's actually pretty tricky though. Well, unless nothing compares to the forms of how it does it on the later stage. Well, not so bad in doing the forms of that synchronized level, despite the fact I accidentally missed that particular blue goal. But that's just because in synchronized level, that basically these two goals, mainly the blue goal and the green goal, just goes all over the place. So even then though, although if you accidentally managed able to hit the green goal, I think it takes us to, without a doubt, the most annoying and the most luck-based level in the entire game. At least not only for the likes of Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania, but also with Super Monkey Ball 2 in mind. So, which you probably already know what to expect what this is going, so but even then though. Also, I just want to classify for something right from the start though, is that, well, apparently though, that from out of nowhere, that the sequel of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey is being confirmed, and oh my god, why does that need to exist? Like, seriously, whoever thought that particular film was such a good idea? I mean, nobody else liked it, myself included, especially concerning that, well, it's pretty unnecessary. And to make matters worse, they did somehow reveal the next character that's going to be introduced in the sequel, which is Tigger himself. And I'm probably not going to be able to actually bring this up ever again, because seriously, whoever thought that was a good idea. But anyway, in terms of some other things I could possibly explain about this, is that I've noticed on the actual resolution results during the forms of Mortal Kombat 1 for the likes of multiple platforms, specifically Xbox Series S or Series X for that matter, along with the forms of Steam Deck or PC Steam, as well as PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch. I'm honestly very surprised about the fact that despite how the Nintendo Switch looks a bit worse than the PlayStation 5 counterpart, as well as Xbox Series X version of it, but I'm very surprised about the fact that the Nintendo Switch version did somehow manage to run the game within 60 FPS, which as a result, that's very surprising. Although, one thing you should probably be able to actually notice something from the start though, is that when you try to play the game on handheld mode, it'll obviously gonna be going to like, oh, I don't know, the forms of 480p, which is more accurately like exactly a similar quality as the forms of how it does it on the Wii U gamepad back in the day, that is. So, yeah, suffice to say is about the fact it's quite impressive to able to note that Mortal Kombat 1 running on the Nintendo Switch with smooth 60 frames per second is actually very surprising. So, oh god, this particular mess of a level. Here we have ourselves Dizzy System. You wanna know why that this particular continuation of certain parts of this playthrough took so long in the others? This particular stage. Because, relatively speaking though, whenever I first got there, I accidentally managed able to activate the helper function mode, which as a result, it allows me to able to do not, I repeat, do not complete the actual mission itself. So because of that though, my best advice is to not recommend you able to actually turn that helper function out, because obviously if you do that, chances are you pretty much need able to go back into square one again when it comes to completing certain missions, like specifically, you know what I'm saying about the fact that you have to able to go through the entire difficulty without needing the actual helper function, and on top of that, you need to able to do like a few deaths run or something like that. But even then though, that's saying something. So, but even then though, I just have no words to say about the forms of Dizzy System, because that stage is incredibly luck-based. Because every time, whenever you managed able to go into the stage itself, there is no way you can able to actually control yourself with it. So because of that, it's just all about luck really. So even then though, that could be quite mischievous more than anything. So, although there is that particular stage coming up, specifically once we get to the special mode, that, my god, it did screw up the actual momentum during the forms of if you try to go for a straight line, unlike the forms of how it does in the original version of that particular stage, based off from Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, mind you. Well, I suppose we'll probably save that particular topic and drain at some point until for the next week or so. So, even I know. Oh, and another thing too, happy 21st anniversary, or to be more specifically, happy 21st anniversary of the game's release of Animal Crossing, specifically the GameCube version. So, even I know. Yeah, it's been 21 years ago since the original Animal Crossing game that ever came out in overseas, specifically in America in 2002, whilst unlike the European version has to wait even longer. Especially it's kind of weird about the fact that the GameCube version of Animal Crossing is actually going to get slightly expensive in the European version for some reason, which I honestly have no words able to think about it. Oh, and another thing too is about the fact that, well, it seems to be more specifically that obviously we able to actually get a chance to see Winnie the Pooh TV show called Play Dates with Winnie the Pooh, and it seems to be more specifically, for I've noticed something, is that this is meant to be sort of a prequel series to the franchise, which, as a result, it does feel very similar to the forms of how it does in one of those SpongeBob spin-off series called Camp Coral, which meaning about the fact that it's most notably is almost like, well, it is definitely a lot better than the forms of Blood and Honey, that's for sure. But except the fact that with Pooh's eyes, this feels a bit weird in that particular series, I will have to admit it though right away. Well, it's just because I'm pretty much used to with the actual, like, a simple black pupil eyes, but even then though, that might be something worth noting for when it comes to likely preferring, you know, the actual, like, visual styles for the likes of the old style compared to the modern one, but even then though, it seems kind of weird able to actually have, like, I don't know, it's been a very long while since I actually mentioned something like this, you know, so... And apparently though, it's about the fact that most people complain about the fact that every once in a while with certain Pokemon games, specifically with Scarlet and Violet, that they keep on bringing this out with the forms of how bad the visuals can be, especially concerning it's almost like the GameCube visuals or the Nintendo 64 visuals, understandably so, but apparently though, whenever when people plays Yoshi's Crafted World, that there's a massive criticism about the bad soundtrack in Yoshi's Crafted World, similar to Yoshi's New Island. But apart from those side things though, yeah, that seems kind of a little bit of a weird criticism when it comes to the forms of those specific games in mind. But either way though, still regardless of such though, we have finally managed able to complete this godforsaken luck-based stage, which is of course Dizzy System. And now we move on to the final stage in Journey forms of the Master Mode. And it seems to be more specifically, we're going on to a dice block of any sorts, like what is this, like a Mario Party stage? Although, to be more specifically, this stage is actually called Destiny, which this used to be the forms of originally, this stage was in the Super Monkey Ball Deluxe, but as a result, that stage right there is actually kind of like the equivalent to the Super Monkey Ball 2 exclusive stage on the Nintendo GameCube that you're able to traverse into the Nintendo GameCube itself. So as a result, the reason why in Monkey Ball Deluxe managed to get Destiny instead of Nintendo stage, because obviously in Super Monkey Ball Deluxe's case, obviously it only came out on the PlayStation 2 and Xbox. And thankfully though, is about the fact that this is actually the first time ever for the Nintendo's platform they can finally get a chance to experience the Destiny level. So because of this though, yeah, it seems pretty interesting. Even though this stage is a bit tricky as a result, mainly because of the forms of the slope momentum system in this game. So even then though, but as soon as you make your way to the very end, well, obviously the goal shows up, and that was it. So that was it for the Master Mode in Super Monkey Ball 2. But we're not exactly done with this just yet, because as I said this before, we are technically missing 2 more stages at piece, which there are if we go into the forms of the Practice Mode in Super Monkey Ball 2 challenge mode portion, because as a result, about the fact no matter what though, we can pretty much guarantee we're able to actually show off the rest of this stuff anyway. So even then though, yeah, let me go ahead and quickly go over to the master level, and it seems to be more specifically we're missing 2 stages, which there are parts and planets. So as a result, let's get started with the forms of parts first. So because of that though, trying to go for those levels in a chronological order, so just to ensure that we'll show some bit of variety. It's a shame that we never get a chance to bump into those specific stages in that particular run, because obviously, like I said before, I accidentally touched the actual red goal by mistake. So, either way though, oh, this looks a bit more interesting to say the least, especially, well, conveniently enough, I somehow did this on the first try. Although keep this in mind, once you go into practice mode, obviously you do not get any points to your currency, so I just want to classify that from the start. So even then though, yeah, that was about it for our parts. So now it's going to move on to the final stage, well, to be more specifically, certain stages that we've not shown yet. That is Planet, which is basically a sequel to Century Stage, based off from Super Monkey Ball 1, except this particular stage is actually a lot harder than the forms of how it does it in Century. But that's just because of the forms of that particular, not only the momentum you have to pull off through, but also about that specific point that if you dare manage to, like, I don't know, do not move at all, or something relates to that, well, obviously about the fact that you need to start all over again. So, yeah, again, this stage does remind me of Century from Super Monkey Ball 1, except not only we can able to have one goal, but two goals this time. So, even then, though. And I suppose, relatively speaking, though, that unlike in the regular Super Monkey Ball 2 game, including Super Monkey Ball Deluxe as well, that now we're able to actually stumble across into ourselves the green goal instead of the red goal. So, kind of interesting, though, at least as far as I'm usually concerned with that stuff. So, anyway, though, so yeah, it's pretty interesting how Princess Peach Showtime is getting an 8GB storage, and unlike Mario vs. Donkey Kong Remake, is going to get 2GB. Now, in terms of everything else, though, specifically, Tomb Raider 1 through 3 Remastered starring Lara Croft is actually getting a 4.9GB storage. So, yeah, that seems pretty interesting. And, oh yeah, I should also mention there was actually another code recollection, and as a result, it's gonna get 6GB. So, yeah, that's something, I suppose. Especially concerning about the particular point that, you know, we're still very happy about the forms of the game selections announced during the course of the actual, like, well, you know what I'm saying. So, even then, though, I suppose I should probably want to address something as well. That lucky for my Nintendo store for the UK, by the way, but that's just because it contains a whole bunch of bonus pre-order items, which there are, was it say, a sticker sheet or a magnetic power-up items or talking flower item, but also we got ourselves a plushie of that particular elephant fruit item. So, and also on top of that, you also get yourselves a talking flower statue sculpture, which as a result, yeah, I just have no idea why that, unlike in any other shops, does not contain any of those pre-order bonuses like this, because all we keep on getting is just sticker sheets, and I was expecting they were able to contain steel books. Like, I know for a fact that the last time we actually got these steel books into our Nintendo Switch games department is, surprisingly enough, The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. But aside from all that stuff, though, yeah, I think that's as far as I can usually think about for the sake of time about the fact I did not realize that certain pre-order bonuses for some countries are pretty much hit and miss for the most part. So, also, I just want to classify for something from the start as well, that the graphics in the forms of in Mortal Kombat 1 comparison with multiple platforms, I think suffice to say that the PlayStation 5 looks the best out of them all because of all that particular expressive character designs, and on top of that, greatest lighting, and on top of all that stuff, there's nowhere near as blurry as the Switch version, despite how, again, it's very impressive to be able to know about the fact that, well, usually for the sake of the forms of how the Switch version runs very well for its 60 FPS option, or 60 FPS for that matter, but either way though, that's saying something. So, there we go folks, that pretty much takes care of every single stages in terms of the Master Stage difficulty, or should I say, the Super Monkey Ball 2 Master Mode. So with that said, we're pretty much done with the majority of the Super Monkey Ball 2 Challenge Mode. Again, I was expecting to try to do a Marathon Mode, but I'll do those on my own time, because obviously, again, you go for the exactly the same stages as before, except the fact that you obviously have to do this in one run. So with that being said, I think we should probably be ending stuff at this point right here. So join me next weekend for more of Let's Play of Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania, and that is that we're going to be tackling through the special mode. So this will get a lot more interesting because it's going to be jam-packed full of stages that we actually have to go through. So yeah, I'll see you guys until the next weekend. Later, fellas.